Assalamu alaikum. How are you, Shazia?
Walaikum salam. Good and you, Hawa?
All good, thank you. Shazia, let's dive straight into it. You grew up in a small town. What was it like for you? Can you paint a picture of the little girl growing up and what your background was?
Okay, so from a young age, I loved learning. I always dreamed of achieving more, going beyond what was expected. I still remember to this day my dad buying me these little folders from CNA, these medical journals for juniors with the experts of different parts of the human body, like the brain, the kidneys, the hearts. And I would play out these imaginary games where I would be the doctor or the professor or even the teacher.
Mm-hmm.
But growing up in a small traditional Indian family, small town, reality didn't always align with those dreams, and television and books became my window of learning. Higher education at that time felt distant, not impossible, rather restricted to what was being offered online. It wasn't feasible at that time, or to move and be physically present in university or at the universities. But Allah knows best. Allah alam, I always say Allah knows. And as soon as I completed matric, I was married at 18. And while many view marrying at a young age as a limitation, for me it was a stepping stone. Alhamdulillah, I was fortunate enough to be married into a family that valued a higher education. I was then enrolled into a university where my husband was currently studying accounting. And together we started our lives blended with love, education, and ambition. However, the road wasn't always that easy.
Yeah.
And I was, so once I got married, I was just a few months into being married, I was actually diagnosed with my first chronic illness, IBS, irritable bowel syndrome. It's fueled by anxiety and stress. And if I can just say, how it's while, society, cultural entrenched ideas associate men with leadership and ambitious qualities, while women are associated with nurturing qualities. Mm-hmm. And why I say it at this point is, for me, it was in addition to the barriers that society had erected, there were barriers that I erected within myself that hindered me. The perception I created or I felt that I needed to live up to of being the perfect wife and the perfect daughter-in-law. And from that balancing task of being both wife and studying was no easy feat.
Oh,
and
sure.
And I struggled with that. And along with that, at just 2 years into my education, I was surprised with the beautiful news of being pregnant and motherhood. And along with the joy of motherhood came the silent struggle of PTSD. And at that time, I know now we see so much progress in society and we understand and we see the support coming through. But 22 years ago or 20 years ago, it took me many years later to understand the profound effect, both physically and mentally, that it had on me. Mm-hmm. But subhanAllah, I managed to get through. I transitioned to online learning. I completed my bachelor's degree in accounting and I was enrolled for honors. Mm-hmm. I then found out I was pregnant once more with my daughter, and it was a high-risk pregnancy. I was young and it was a dangerous pregnancy, so I decided to deregister. And I often go back, or I often think about that time and whether if I had persevered and pushed through, what would have been the outcome. But like I said, I continuously with my life, I've maintained that, Allah khairul makirin, Allah is the best of planners. Yes. And we have this path that we create, this thing that we assume that, this is the path, and then a detour comes along and the trajectory of the path is completely changed. Mm-hmm. And we just need to have the grace and patience to understand that, the one who created the path knows exactly where it leads. Anyways, I then 2.5 years later, I then fell pregnant with my third daughter. And it was at that time I decided that I needed to better equip my kids, to support them better with their education. And I wanted it more than just book education or classroom education. I went and I acquired a postgrad in education. But I always tell my daughters this, and the ladies I meet or the young girls I meet, is find your ambition or your goal and try and reach the highest that you can in that. In no way am I assuming that everybody's concept of success or ambition is the same, or the concept of happiness. But whatever makes you content or whatever your goal is, try and reach the highest. We have so few women in leadership positions today. It makes me wonder, I mean, if we had pushed through, and if we as individuals pushed through, what would the outcome be? What would the circumstances be? Irrespective, I studied education. I completed my postgrad. I then went and did further research in the Montessori, Waldorf, Reggio. I explored all different forms of education. For me, it was always that we could be beyond what was out there, and there was so much more that we could achieve. And that's when I realized that this impact that I was having with my kids, I could have this impact on a wider scale.
Yes.
And I started working as an educator at that time. My youngest daughter was still in play school, and she would attend the play school that I was working at. I worked for almost 2 years there. And education and being an educator was so meaningful for me. But at the same time, it exposed me to this part in which educators are not valued or undervalued in our society. And these are the very people that are shaping future generations, And I know I've gone now from the little girl and giving you the whole background, but I wanted to actually come to this point where, the reason that I sit here and the learnings that I wish to communicate to the people watching, and it for me, and we'll get to that now. But so at that time, I decided to resign, and I was actually, that's why I go back and I think, Allah has this greater plan for you, because I mean, it's impossible that you made that decision at that time, because I was given a position that it was actually like a promotion, and I decided to turn it down. If I could sum it up, and in no way I'm saying that you can sum it up in one sentence, but am I blooming where I am right now, or is it time for me to move and grow? And that's exactly what I thought at that time. A little later than that, I was offered an accounting, a finance position at a company, and I actually accepted it. My youngest was almost 9 years old. All my kids were at school. It was a great opportunity, and I accepted the position. 3 months into the position, and unlike when I was working at school, so when I started working as an educator, I was equipped. I was a mom. It was easy for me to connect with being an educator. I had at least the book knowledge, but I also had the practical skills. Moving into corporate, on the other hand, yes, I might have had the book knowledge, but I was not equipped at all with the practical skills or with the corporal or professional etiquette or anything of the sort. I actually lacked so much when it came to that. And 3 months into that, I found out that I was pregnant 9 years after having my youngest child.
Number 4.
Yes, number 4. And I remember this moment. For me, it's a monumental moment in my life. And I always get emotional saying it, because I woke up the morning and I was going to the office, and I met my co-founder and the CEO of the company that I work at, a woman who is a mentor and someone I deeply admire. And I said to her, I'm pregnant. And she looked at me and she said to me, well, Shazia, pregnancy is not a disease. And that simple truth. And I say that now, and like I said just now, the reason I'm here, a few months ago, a while ago, I was at my niece's birthday party, and I met an acquaintance of mine. And she asked me if I was still teaching, and I mentioned this to you just now, Hawa, and she asked me if I was still teaching. And I said to her, no, I actually, I have an accounting degree, and I went into co-op and I'm working. And she said, Shazia, I have an accounting degree as well. And I actually worked prior to having kids in the corporate world. but I'm afraid because I don't know if I'm ready to go back. Like if I can manage not only the challenge of balancing both motherhood and ambition, but also being equipped to survive in the corp world. And I thought it stayed with me, I went home, it stayed with me. And I thought to myself, well, what if I could demystify that fact, and if people could actually look at me and think, if she can do it, I can do it.
Mm-hmm.
Is it possible? Because I was not young when I entered. I had 3 kids, my youngest being 9, my oldest being 14. I had kids. And in no way am I here trying to make it sound like it was easy, because it was not easy. Yeah. I was diagnosed with my second chronic illness around that time. I live with psoriasis. And that's a physical reminder of my strength and my struggle. But through all of this spiritually, I found my healing from turning to my Allah. And my dream of having a wider impact on society itself. Through prayer, dua, and surrender, I found clarity to push through with courage. And now, as a mother of 4 and a growing leader as an executive, I've rewritten the narrative. I no longer see ambition and motherhood as 2 opposites. I see it as intertwined in the story of who I am. And I'm here to demystify, not only demystify the fact, but to tell other women that, you are more than capable of breaking the glass ceiling. Go ahead and do that. Embrace all parts of yourself. For me, it's important that we see it as being achievable rather than being, what Sheryl Sandberg, the ex-CFO of Google and Facebook once said, please ask yourself, what would happen if you weren't afraid? And then go and do it. And for me, that was exactly what it was. When I walked into the office that day, 3 months into working to the job, I was afraid. I was looking for an excuse. I was looking for a way out. And this woman's simple, profound statement gave me the confidence. It made me explore my journey without guilt.
Yeah.
And subhanAllah, it's just been since then.
And your CEO's words to you obviously had a major shift in your mindset. What would you say to other employers regarding motherhood and its limitations?
No, for me, there's no limitation in motherhood and ambition. Woman, with every struggle and with every challenge, there's value at the end, or there's light at the end of the tunnel. But we need to be, so if we're addressing employees or employers at the same time, we need to understand, we need to be cognizant of the fact that the barrier that's pushing through with all of us is fear. Mm-hmm. It's embracing. If we are able to embrace all parts of ourselves in terms of, and that's what we should be doing. We should be portraying this representation of mentorship and sisterhood and support. I am where I am not only because of self-determination, but because of the support I've had of these incredible women. And that's why I think it's so important for women to be in leadership positions to support other women. With Fortune 500 companies, only 10% of Fortune 500 companies have leading women as executives, being in CEO or CFO positions. That's 50 out of 500 companies.
Yeah.
There's so much more. And I'm nowhere am I saying that we haven't seen growth. There's been amazing growth and potential, but there's so much more we can do. So if you are in a position as an employer to support the women that are within your organization, then showing them that or giving them that support is something that we should definitely be working towards.
And your advice to younger couples or those getting married, right? You said one of the biggest supports that you had was your husband. What would you say in terms of that? What was your experience and what would you advise others?
For me, it was, I doubted, for me, my biggest mistake, I always say this, was doubting myself and my self-ability. The ability, your worth isn't conditional upon what you expected or what's the outcome, But my husband's my best friend. He's my champion. His belief in me has never wavered. We have this inside joke between us, and I say this here, but we have this inside joke because we have 4 kids, and he's always telling me, because everybody comes around and tells us, you pay 4 school fees, and he's like, oh, I wish they'd known that I actually pay 5 school fees, because my wife has never stopped learning. She's always registered. And alhamdulillah, it's about just balancing. I'm not gonna say that it's easy. I'm a villain at home. Most times I have bad days, and I've missed more school events than I can count. I've missed pickups. I've missed play dates. But it's about finding the balance between the two of us, and he doesn't see, or it's because society has created this perception that a man's position is more valuable than that of a woman. No, we don't look at it like that in our home. We don't want to be setting that sort of standard for the children we're raising. No, both of our professions are equally important in our home, and so is the responsibility of being parents. Yeah. And I think if you're able to have that open conversation, for me at the very beginning, where you lay it all out, because we need to be respecting each other and valuing each other. But it's never going to be easy, and there's going to be times, but communication is key. Obviously, communication and support and respect. It's about respect at the end of the day.
Definitely. Your choice with choosing to put your honors on hold, right? I'm sure it was a very difficult one for you. How did you find peace in making that decision? And what would you say was the divine alignment that came with that?
Being a mother at a young age is very overwhelming. I don't think people or society realizes how overwhelming it can be to be a mom at a young age. And along with it, maybe we've seen progress. And like I said earlier, the perception of being able to, being the best mother and being the best wife. And it's all, I feel like the pressures have been significantly reduced through these years and for the younger generations. And people are more, what's the word, we'd rather not, it's not important to have that home cooked meal anymore, but, for the young girl in those days, it wasn't that easy. It was, you put that pressure on yourself that it was needed. And so, for me, it was always, with books and with studying, I found solitude and contentment. So having to put that on hold while nurturing another part of my being took all of me to embrace that. And that's why as women, we have times in our lives where we have to embrace different parts of ourselves. And not to say that it can't be done congruently. And it took me a while to understand that, because at that time I assumed that, maybe it would be too much pressure and I wouldn't manage. But obviously having 4 kids now and managing it, alhamdulillah, it's possible. There is no impossible. There is no impossible. It's what you make. But so at that time, it was, for me, it was, I through only the mercy of Allah, I managed to actually realize, that there was a greater plan. There was a bigger plan for me in this. And that's why I say it. And possibly do occasionally, if it's something that I'm still talking about, it's obviously something that's there. If I had pushed through and persevered, what would have been the result? But then I wouldn't have actually studied education, and I wouldn't have been able to see that part and the wider impact that I could have had on society. So through prayer, faith, surrender, you find your healing and your direction. Allah knows best.
And with the PTSD, right? What was some of the signs you missed, and what would you say to young girls struggling with it now?
So when I had and why I say much later, so it was not that I didn't understand it until I had my 4th daughter. No, I didn't understand it when I had my first child. Yes, I missed the signals. I missed the signs of being extremely over emotional. I was depressed for periods of time. I'd stay up at night feeling the lack of sleep, the complete different exposure to the challenges that were coming through. Having a newborn is not an easy task for anybody. But along with that, you as a young mother, you're trying to grapple with the emotions that are coming out or forward. And it's so important to have a supportive partner during that period of time. So even though I was unable to identify PTSD, and then many years later, when I studied further and understanding education better, and also just the signs were all there that, maybe I was crippling or struggling with this, some sort of challenge, maybe not at a larger scale, but yes, definitely. But so when I had my daughter, my fourth daughter, and my fourth child, my fourth child, I had very same symptoms.
Okay.
I would stay up at night. I would, not because of the baby, I would stay up at night because I was actually struggling with my emotions and the processing of it. It was a life-changing moment once again. And it was during this period of time that I realized that, I'm stressed, I'm depressed, I'm going through something more than just having a newborn baby in the home. And I seek support. I actually went, I spoke to my doctor, and she made me understand that even though with PTSD, people assume that it has to be at the highest, or there's no scaling between the two, We assume that either you are completely depressed or you're managing this wonderful, the joys of motherhood have all kicked in. And nobody sees that silent struggles of the in-between. And that's where I was. I was between the two. I was not at the point where I needed to be medicated, orally medicated, but I was also not where I was completely embracing motherhood. I was between the two, and subhanallah, having that support of talking to somebody. We had multiple conversations between us as husband and wife. My husband was much more supportive during that period of time, and we managed and got through. But the problem with society and with our entrenched ideas or long standing values is that the shame. There's no shame in anything that you do. If you're able to be better equipped as a mother, or be a better mother by seeking help, then there should be nobody telling you out there that you shouldn't be seeking that help.
It's to better yourself, your situation.
Of course.
When did you realize, or you've been in many of the conference rooms and boardrooms as a CFO, when did you realize you were born to do this? Or you belong there?
I won't say that I belong there as yet, not with complete confidence. I believe that I have so much more still to say to get to that position where I can say that I love what I do. I'm not going to say I don't love what I do. And I'm not going to say, because I am all for self-belief. And doubting myself and the ability I have was the biggest mistake. So I won't say that I am not, I don't belong there. I feel like I belong where I am. I had to fight extremely hard to find my seat as an executive on that table. It brings me to, Warren Buffett, acclaimed CEO, once was asked about his successes. And his response was that in my race, I had to compete with only half the population, implying that women were not even included, were not even given equal opportunities. And alhamdulillah for having that opportunity and being given that opportunity. But I still believe that I have a long way to say that, I can't say I was born for that role, because time and Almighty has so much bigger plans that we're not even aware of.
Yeah.
But yes, I do believe at this time in my life, this is where I am, and this is for me, it's very important to be able to pass this message or to communicate these learnings with other women out there. And like I was telling you, it's not only about the younger generation.
Yeah.
For me, it's about women of all ages embracing themselves for being mother, warrior, champion, professional, whatever it may be. For me, it's very important that I can get that message across and let women see that, if she can do it, a woman who entered the corporate world with 4 kids, then, I can do it.
And how do you go about doing that? How do you embrace where you are? Or what would you say to the ladies that are struggling with embracing that?
Be patient, be persistent. Small steps also take you forward. Self-belief and faith, the power of faith and self-belief are amazing, and they have the power to overcome any obstacle. every master in life or in chess, learned more from the moves that led to defeat than the moves that led to victory. So take your time and just push through. It's about pushing through every day. Those small moves. I don't know. I was reading something the other day about this Japanese theory, the Kaizen theory, where small steps. Yes, continuous. So maybe take it as much as not everybody can manage or can handle as much as the next person, and be patient and persistent, and also never underestimate the power of sincere dua.
Yeah.
The power of sincere dua, inshallah, Almighty Allah is so great.
Why do you think it's harder for women to have a seat at the table? Why do they always have to prove themselves?
For me, it's about, from my own personal experience and from what I've seen in recent years, it's about entrenched cultural ideas. It's personally about, it's not only also about more cultural ideas, but also about what we erect within ourselves, the barriers that we erect within ourselves. It's we doubt our self-ability. And research continues to show, mental toughness, grit, resilience. Those are what set people apart, both in their personal and in their business lives. I've attended a few conferences, and we constantly looking for approval. We women are constantly looking for approval. We underestimate ourselves. We don't. I was telling you earlier, we seldom will be able to give a compliment to a fellow woman, saying that it's nice to see you being ambitious. It's nice to see you, because it's easy to say you're a good mom or you're a good cook, but why not acknowledge when somebody is good in their business or in their careers? And so I think for me, it's also about we constantly undermining ourselves, or underestimating ourselves, and underestimating the woman around us. And that belief, that self-mastery, you'll walk into many businesses, and you'll hear men raising their hands or faster. You'll see men raising their hands faster than women when it comes to, opportunities. And women always going back and it's as if they need to verify, or they need to confirm that they are better supported, or that they have the knowledge for the position. We're constantly doing that, when I think we as women are even more equipped, or have the greater knowledge than, like I said, Warren Buffett himself says that. So I think they understand the threat. It's us that don't understand how powerful we are.
And why do you think women don't take the opportunity to sit at that table?
Yeah, that's the problem. That's a challenge we've been facing for, like I said earlier, there's so few women in leadership positions. It's about, women seldom feel confident enough in managing both. They always feel that they have to choose. It's either, if I'm at an executive position, will I be able to manage being, and it's not always about motherhood. It's even about other characteristics that come through to women who feel so underconfident, or not confident enough to be able to push through. And that's why we see so few leaders in leadership, women in leadership positions. It's a sad reality, unfortunately. But for me, like I said, it's definitely the self-belief. I don't think women have that have the level of self-belief that men have. And we need to continue pushing through for that.
Definitely. Would you say there's any merit in pressing pause sometimes?
Yeah, we do have. Occasionally men feel insecure, and not all men are supportive of their wives or of their, it depends on the situation that you are in, or in the relationship that you are in, obviously, where you need the support. It's not always easy to balance being in business. We not only need the support, we also need the mentorship. And sometimes that's where we lack representation, because we don't have the men often seen as inadequate when it comes to a marriage where the wife is an executive and he's barely making means. So it's not about, it's like we said earlier, it's about respect. and going back to that respect and pushing each other to be the best that you can be. And yeah, sometimes it can be an hindrance in moving forward.
Definitely. Your favorite go-to quote, I forgot the exact wording. Do you want to just elaborate on that?
You know how I was thinking about that, and I know I told you earlier that one, but I was thinking about it, and I realized that, you know, I often write this in my study and to my kids, and I thought, why not bring it up here? You know, you were born with wings. Why prefer to crawl through life? Rumi has said it. I know I live by one that says she believed she could, so she did. But I also feel like, why do we underestimate ourselves and go through life by just getting through?
Yeah, there has to be something more.
There has to be something more. You know, we don't need to be living in a box that tradition built.
So you mentioned that success is not linear. What's your definition of success?
For me, it's about choosing yourself over and over, despite the fear, the agony, or the delay. It's always about choosing yourself. You need to trust that the one who created your path knows exactly where it leads, and the version of yourself that failed is often the version of you who taught the one that succeeded eventually.
For you, you've worn many labels, from mother to executive to advocate. What would you say was the most difficult for you to define in your own terms?
Managing motherhood, chronic health conditions, societal or systematic pressure, loss of direction, and all while nurturing my ambition. I had to push through all of that to get to the point where I can, like we said, I had to fight harder than anybody else to be or earn that seat as an executive, and also to be present as a mom.
Yeah, I think it's important to have that balance.
I don't think you ever find the right balance. And if I'm being honest here, like I said earlier, but it's always about, I mean, you know, when you're dropping the balls, which ones are you dropping and which ones are you not? Because you're always trying to balance that out so that at least you're there for the important parts. I was telling you earlier, you know, for me, it's like sometimes when I'm a mom, I go home, I do homework with my kids, and I might be the woman behind the screen or the woman at the boardroom table, but I'm still a mom, and I go home, and while I'm actually cooking or stirring that dish, I'm thinking if I missed that point, or if I could have done better. And at the same time, when I'm in the boardroom, I'm wondering if I've packed adequate lunch, or if I've missed my daughter's tuition. Yeah, it's about, there's no way, or there's no glamorous way of putting it.
Yeah, I think as a mom, you live a whole life before your workday starts and a whole life afterwards. And it's just something you have to incorporate.
And it's also about, for me, it's about, you know, I've had incredible support. I've had my parents. They're my pillars of strength. They are, and they have been. I've had in-laws. I got good in-laws, alhamdulillah. I've been fortunate. My kids are extremely supportive. They fill my cup of love daily. And that's what I was saying, you know, it's about just getting that daily cup of love filled, and they keep me grounded at the same time. And I've had my husband, who's my best friend, my champion. His faith in me has never wavered. And I'm just pushing through with all of this and being fortunate enough to see it. But it's also about, you know, when we say contentness and pushing through, and it's not about highlighting specific perception or specific way of success, but it's about, for me, it's about, I love what I do, and that's why I feel like I'm a better mom when I'm happier, and I'm happier doing what I do.
Yeah.
If I could, in basic words, you know, and that's where I am. It's not about, you know, okay, but you know, it's so difficult, so why do you do it? Yes, because I'm better at being a mom when I'm happy. I'm a happier mom.
Yeah.
And I'm happiest when I feel like my cup of love is filled, and this is what fills me.
If your 20-year-old self could look at you now, what would be the most shocking revelation, and what would feel like home for you?
I think it's about, you know, for as a 40-year-old woman, my mindset compared to that of a 20-year-old, I wouldn't say that it has changed, or that I would rather say it's evolved. It's evolved to what I've experienced in life. I was married young. I faced many situations where I would handle differently now as a 40-year-old. But these were the lessons that taught me, or like I said, the moves that made me the person I am today. So looking back at that, I'd just be, the only thing I would tell my younger self, or if I could compare to my younger self, was doubting my self-belief and my self-ability. For me, it's about if I had been more confident. I think I lack confidence, and that's it. I lack confidence, and it's not easily seen, or it's not that transparent,
Yeah,
people around you will say, oh, how do you do it? Oh, you're so confident, and they don't see that. That's what I said earlier. They don't see, there's so much behind the screen, and I don't feel like it's necessary to always share it. I don't want to be sitting here and saying it's easy, but I don't want to also be sitting here and telling you that, you know what, I had to face all these hardships. No, I feel like these little trials got me to where I am. And I say little because, subhanAllah, I am where I am today. And I've been given the support of my Almighty Allah right through. So they were little trials. I mean, Almighty Allah, sitting on that musalla and getting closer to Allah, if those trials allowed us to get there, then I mean, we should be asking for more, because I mean, subhanAllah, yeah. But looking back at that, at my younger self, and I would tell her more so, I would tell her, just be patient, be persistent, believe in yourself, believe in your Allah, trust in your Allah, and just push through and continue, because the impact or the end journey is there's so much more that's coming that you're going to see and that you're going to look forward to.
And your vision, what legacy do you wish to leave behind, not just for your daughters, but for all the young ladies?
So for me, it's about not living in the box that tradition built. Build your own foundation. Trust in Allah, find refuge, and embrace all parts of yourself. We as women, we dynamic, we powerful. We can continue pushing through and find those leadership positions. For me, it's important that women, they who feel uncertain, unheard, they need to realize that the greatest power to overcome any obstacle is self-belief. It's that self-confidence, that self-belief. And if you have that self-belief and you're able to embrace that, then there's no one that's going to stop you.
Shazia, your story today has been a testament of strength and inspiration. If you could leave us with words of wisdom today to the community at large, as well as to the audience listening, what would you say?
Ambition and motherhood are not opposites. They fuel each other. Self-belief and faith, self-belief and faith, having self-belief and faith is the foundation you need. They shape your strengths. And there's no shame in pausing. There's only power in returning or entering at any time or any period.
Thank you so much for joining me. It's been a very inspirational journey with you, and I wish you all the best on your mentorship. Hopefully you get there.
Amin. I will. Inshallah. Inshallah. We have to believe, and we have to, that's the only way that we need to continuously be aiming or have these higher goals that we wish to attain.
100%.
Amin.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.